Hi, everybody. Hopefully, you had a nice week of trying to catch up on some of the work, and we kind of lighten the load for you there. So, we're going to start up again today with a new skill. So, we're looking at multiplying two fractions. Last week or the week before, we actually used pictures or models to do this, right? We started with a box and we made an area model. We did one fraction horizontally, the other fraction vertically, and we saw where the two overlapped, right? We said we were making an X, or it was shaded by both of those fractions that we created, and that's how we found our answer. Okay, so we were finding like a piece of one of the other fractions. So now we're going to do that, multiplying fractions by fractions, but we're going to do it without pictures. We're going to use the algorithm, and I'm going to use this example here of 3/8 times 3/9. I'm really not sure why one fraction is larger than the other. This came right from your Go Math textbook. So let's take a look at multiplying these two. I'm going to tell you, this is pretty simple to do. There really are only two steps to get an answer here. But I'm going to tell you that all of our answers are going to need to be in simplest form. So that's where a lot of us are going to struggle. So let's take a look at doing this using the algorithm. And when we multiply fraction by fraction, all we need to do is multiply the two numerators. Okay, so we're going to multiply the 3 and the 8 together to get another numerator for us. Okay, it's 24. And then we're just going to multiply the two denominators. So we have these two denominators here, 8 and 9, which is 72. So that's should be pretty easy for us to do, but here's the problem. Look at this fraction, 24/72. We're going to have to put this in simplest form. So I know, because before we left for this distance learning, that a lot of us were still struggling with simplifying that skill from fourth grade. So we can simplify this fraction, and hopefully we remember that to do that, we had to write out all of the factors of 24, all of the factors of 72, and we're looking for the largest factor they both have, okay? So that is pretty time consuming, right? I mean, 24 isn't too bad, right? Most of us can figure out the factors of 24, but 72 is something that's not very easy to work with. So I'm going to quickly show you how to simplify this fraction, and then I'm going to show you how to do this question a little bit differently to make our end product a little bit easier to work with, okay? So I'm going to start by listing the factors, and remember, factors are the two numbers that multiply together to give us that 24 or to give us that 72. So hopefully remember doing this. We did the greatest common factor a while ago, but I like to start with 1 times that number, and I like to spread them out, right? So 1 times 24 will give us 24, and all the other numbers will fall in between the numbers 1 and 24. So I like to continue on and move to the next number and say 2. Can 2 times something give me 24? Yes, because 24 is an even number. So 2 times 12 is 24, right? And then I'm thinking again now, what about 3? Yes, 3 works also. 3 times 8 is 24. And notice again how I'm working my way in. So there's less range of numbers. Everything's falling in between those two numbers as I do this. And then we have 4 times 6 also gives us 24. Now, between the numbers 4 and 6, there's only one number, and that's 5. Does 5 times 5 give me 24? Does 5 times anything give me 24? No, it does not. So I'm all done. These are all of the factors of 24. Again, this one is not too bad. 72 now we're going to do. That's going to be a lot of numbers, okay? So we're going to start the same way. I'll have 1 and 72. And then I know it has to be 2 because 72 is an even number, right? So 2 times 36. Now, 3 times 24 also gives me 72. And I could stop right there because if I look over here at my top line, the biggest number on my top line is 24. And I'm looking for the greatest common factor, so the biggest number that will be on both of these factor lines. So I can't get any bigger than 24 on this line. So if I have 24 here, that tells me that that's the greatest common factor. I could continue to go on, but I don't have to, right? I mean, I could go and say, okay, well, 4 times 18, but I'm not going to use those numbers. I already found what I need. So now for me to simplify this problem, I need to take that greatest common factor, which is 24, and I need to divide that into the numerator and into the denominator. And then I'm going to go ahead and get my fraction in simplest form. So 24 divided by 24 is 1. And then 72 divided by 24, if you're not sure, you have the factors here. Look, right? Looks 24, it goes with 3. So that means 72 divided by 24 is 3. Our answer in simplest form is 1/3. Now that's a lot. This simplifying is a lot to do. So I'm going to show you right now an easier way to come up with a smaller fraction when we do our multiplying here, so that our simplifying could be either done for us completely or could be much easier for us to do. So I'm just going to go ahead and erase all of this just so that I can show you this skill that will help us a whole lot and make things a lot easier. And again, I know it's because a lot of us struggle with simplifying. So we're going to do what's called cross-simplifying or cross-canceling before we do any multiplying, okay? So before I multiply my numerators and before I multiply my denominators, I'm going to look at the numerator in the first fraction and the denominator in the second fraction. Notice it kind of goes there. They're connected by the multiplication sign, right? If I drew this line of multiplication out here, it kind of connects these two numbers. So I'm looking at those two numbers and I'm going to say to myself, is there any number that I can actually divide into both 3 and 9? And if the answer is yes, I'm going to write that in. So I know I can divide 9 and 3 both by 3, right? They can both be divided by 3. So I'm going to put that in here. And then I'm going to do the same thing looking at the numerator of the second fraction and the denominator of the first fraction. Again, the multiplication symbol is kind of connecting those two numbers together. If you were to draw that multiplication symbol out, you would hit those two numbers. And now those numbers are the same. They're both 8 in this question. So that means I could divide them both by 8. Okay? So now I'm going to rewrite this problem. I'm going to do all this division that I put in. So I have 3 divided by 3 up here, and that's 1. So there's my new numerator of my first fraction. I have 8 divided by 8. Look at that. That's also 1. This is a multiplication problem, so that's not changing. And then we're going to do the division up here. I have 8 divided by 8, which is 1. And then 9 divided by 3, which is 3. Now I have smaller numbers to do my multiplication with. So I have numerators to multiply. 1 times 1 is 1. I have denominators to multiply. 1 times 3 is 3. And look at that. We got the same answer, and we got to work with smaller numbers to make it a little bit easier for ourselves. So let's take a look at doing another one like this. And I'm going to do it in this way for you as well. So here's our next problem. It's 5/12 times 3/5. And I'm going to go ahead and do what I just did. I'm going to do my cross-canceling or cross-simplifying before I do any multiplication. So again, remember, we're going to be looking at the numerator of the first number and the denominator of the second number. Okay? I can draw the line, they connect with each other. That's how I know I'm looking at those two together. Excuse me, together. So they're both the same number. So that means I could divide them both by 5, right? I can divide 5 by 5. And in here, I can divide 5 by 5 as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and look at the numerator of this second fraction and the denominator of the first fraction. Again, connected by that multiplication symbol. I'm thinking about 3 and 12. Is there a number I can divide into both of them? It has to be the same number. So I could divide them both by the number 3. So now I have in my first fraction 5 divided by 5, which is 1. And then I have 12 divided by 3, which is 4. It's still a multiplication problem. And I have 3 divided by 3, And then I have 5 divided by 5. And now I can do this multiplication problem. 1 times 1, right? Numerator is multiplied is 1. And then I have 4 times 1 is 4. And there is my answer. It came out in simplest form. These two questions were really nice because they gave us an answer, or we could cross cancel, I'm sorry, in both fractions. Sometimes you're not going to be able to cross cancel all 4 numbers. Sometimes you may only be able to use 2 of those numbers. All right, guys, so today you're practicing multiplying fractions. I would definitely suggest doing the cross canceling or cross simplifying that I just showed you. And you could just multiply straight across, right? I could do 5 times 3 is 15. And then I could say 12 times 5 is 60, and then simplify this fraction. Or I could go ahead and do my cross simplifying or cross canceling